Hello, and welcome to the Agent Hero podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Shaughnessy. As a multi-award-winning 20-year industry leader in real estate, my goal is to share with you how I learned to make a six-figure income working just 20 hours a week, focusing only on the high-impact activities that net real results. I want to share with you the secrets I've learned over the past 20 years that have led me to the dream life I have now. This podcast will help you master the art of efficiency, find balance in the hustle, and equip you with impactful tips from myself and other industry experts to help you rise to the top of the industry while putting your happiness and freedom at the forefront of your life. Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome back. It's Melissa Shaughnessy here. And I hope everybody is enjoying these holidays. I know we are right in the thick of it. There's only 2 weeks left of the year. And if you celebrate Christmas, I think we've got less than 2 weeks left of that. It's a little chaotic. It's a little crazy. I know that there's so much to be done, but I do hope that, especially over this past weekend, I hope everybody was able to just sort of check out for a minute and just be present with those that they love and those that are around them, whether you have kids or just your loved ones and your friends. I hope you did some fun holiday festivities. 'Tis the season. We never get this opportunity to sort of slow down. And real estate just happens to slow down during the time of year when we should be connecting with others the most. So I sort of love that. I just hope that you guys are all enjoying the holiday season and really, appreciating what it's there for. But as I say that, my topic for today is going to be about winning and negotiating multiple offers. The reason this came up is I am trying to squeeze in one last transaction in 2024. It's a pretty big one. In fact, it's probably my biggest all year. It's going to be for actually two different lots, and it's going to be the sum of about 72 acres. So it's a pretty big transaction. And I got to tell you, I've got all the cards stacked against me and my client. There is a developer who is already got his eyes on it, already has the LOI out. He already has the numbers that my client is actually not going to be able to compete with. But I could have let that just stop me and say, all right, there's not a shot in hell. We're not going to get it, but I'm not going to do that. I know that I have a super high multiple offer win ratio. I always have. And I decided that this would be a great opportunity to talk about this, to see exactly what it is that I do and how I get my clients at the top of the stack over and over and over, even when the cards are stacked against them. So we're going to break that down today. There's about 8 different things that I do. Now, bear with me. I try to make these episodes very succinct. However, I just think that each one of these needs to be discussed, and it starts from the beginning. First of all, one of the most important things to understand as an agent is the power that we have over whether or not our clients get accepted. We have so much power. We have probably more power than they do on their sheet of paper of the terms that they're offering. So it starts with us and it ends with us. So I always make sure that I'm striking up the rapport before I even go out to the property. And it's pretty funny because I remember being at a closing and I had a client and he just thought the drama was so fun of these real estate shows. And he's like, come on, where's the drama? Where's the drama? And he thought, why are you guys being so nice to each other? I'm thinking, you wouldn't have this property if we were fighting. There's nothing advantageous about your agent fighting with the listing agent. Nothing is ever going to come out of this. So if there's any myths out there that being a bulldog to somebody is going to get you and your client the property, probably not the way to go. That seems obvious to me, but I guess it's not obvious to everybody. So I always try to, strike up a great rapport before we even go out. And then when my client is interested in the property, you want to keep up that great rapport. You want to be the easiest, most likable, fantastic agent in the room. They're getting calls left and right from all different agents and all different personality styles. And think about when you're a listing agent. You want to work with who you want to work with. You don't want to work with somebody who's a total pain in the butt. Am I right? Let's be real. It starts with you. You've got to make that friendship. You've got to make that connection. It's so important. It's so overlooked and it should never be overlooked. So if you're thinking that what your personality is or how you approach the listing agent is irrelevant and it only matters what's on the piece of paper, You could not be more wrong. The listing agent has great influence over the seller as to which buyer to go with and why. So you definitely want to start the report from the beginning. The second thing we want to talk about is gaining intel. Don't ever write an offer ever without talking to the seller first, unless you have to get it out and then you can go back and tweak after you talk. But you always want to acquire the intel from the get go. Do not be afraid to ask, what is it that your seller is looking for? Some of the agents out there, they believe that they're not allowed to say, my seller got an offer for 10K or 15K over list price. They absolutely can. They absolutely can. We're always going to have a conversation with the agent before we write the offer. We want to find out everything that we need to know in order to make that offer as attractive as possible. Not everything is obvious. So you might want to find out, what is the seller's story? Maybe you think that everybody wants a quick close. That's not the case. Some people want a long close, obviously, and some people are looking to buy a house and they want to be able to rent it back. You need to find out what the seller's story is before you write that offer so you can figure out how to alleviate their pain point when other agents are just focusing on numbers. Also, don't be afraid to flat out ask the agent, where are we at? What do we need to be? A lot of agents will kind of bust out laughing like, I can't answer that. They can answer that. There's nothing illegal about it. The seller allows you to say, this is the number he wants. You're allowed to say it. So ask them, listen, I need to know where you're at. And most agents will be hesitant to tell you what number you're at. And they might not tell you what number they're at, but they'll say, we are just a little bit above ask. Okay, so do you think if I offered such and such, do you think that will get it done? And they'll laugh and be like, I can't believe you're asking me this. Just don't be afraid to throw out the numbers. Do not be afraid to do it. So if you don't get the question answered right away as to around about what price you should be at, you can start asking it in a different way. You can start off by saying, is anybody in list price? Are we at list price yet? Okay. You won't tell me that. Are we close? Do you think that if we came in at 10% over list price, do you think that would do it? Just keep digging, just keep asking it in different ways. Sometimes if you say to them, listen, my clients can only go to this amount. Whenever you say something like, I just want to make sure we're not going to be wasting our time writing an offer, we just won't write an offer if that's the case, you can get answers really freaking quick. Obviously, they want you to write an offer, right? So try that method and you'll get a very clear understanding as to what you need to be coming in at. And then the next thing I would say is be your client's advisor, not their secretary. And what I mean by this is just know that they are relying on you to tell them what they should do here. There are so many agents. There's a lot of really, really, really strong personalities and strong agents who are not afraid to tell their clients exactly what needs to be done. But there's also a lot of agents who it just doesn't align with their personality. And they feel like they just have to basically write down whatever it is that they want to do. And they're afraid to tell their clients because they don't want to come across pushy. You're not pushy. They want this house. They want this house bad. And they're going to be most likely very disappointed if they don't get it. So it's your job to do the research to find out, what is this neighborhood going for? Are they typically selling at 102% at list price? Is it typically 104% of list price? What's kind of the going average? And will that be covered in an appraisal? Go ahead, educate them on what exactly the stats show. But just don't be afraid to tell them flat out, this is what it's going to take. This is not going to get it done, most likely. And if you're worried about coming off too pushy or whatnot, you've got to get over that, because that is our job, is to advise them, not to push them, but to advise them that if this is the property, this is what they need to do. One thing I always say, if they're feeling anxious about maybe the numbers that they are being advised to put out there, what I always say to them, and I just put it right back on them, I say, if you were to lose this property over this 5,000 right here, if you were to lose it because you didn't put up that extra 5K, would you be devastated? Would you regret it? Or Would you feel, nope, you know what? I followed my heart, followed my intuition. That was my boundary and I did not want to go past that. And you'd feel really good about that. Then that's what you should stick with. And whatever answer they give you is perfect. You just want to advise them what it's going to take. And then whatever answer they give you, that is fine. But they typically will put themselves in the situation. And if they are going to regret it over 5K and they're just kind of trying to be a strong negotiator, they'll usually come around. That could be what it takes to beat out the competition, that 5K right there. So definitely pose that to them. Okay, the next thing is we need to revise our typical special steps when we are in a multiple offer situation. Keep it clean, loosen them up a little bit. While your Harvard Law degree standard steps usually are something to be really proud of, I get it. I feel the same way about mine. You want to be proud of them, you want to keep them on deck, but they're probably not going to apply on this transaction. Unfortunately, this is when we need to appear very easy to work with. If you need to drop the hammer after inspection, so be it. Okay. But at the offer, you need to be very, very easy to work with. We need things very clean in our offer. I will tell you some of my favorite offer enhancers are offering a non-refundable deposit that no matter what happens during their inspection period or your due diligence period, as it's called in Georgia, if you back out, they get your deposit. That's a great one. I would also insert escalation clauses that move the needle. I find that if you're just going 500 or $1,000 over the highest bid, it oftentimes isn't going to be enough for them to take your offer. So you probably want to do bigger chunks, depending on the price point, at least 2K, maybe it's 5K. It needs to move the needle because if all other factors are the same, that's not going to do it. That's when your personality really matters. All right. And then another thing I would say is sort of an offer enhancer is obviously there's always the issue of the appraisal, right? But so many times you need to talk to the lender because it could be a situation where there will be an appraisal waiver. We all just assume that every single deal is going to have an appraisal if there's a loan, but that's not necessarily the case. If they're putting enough down or there's enough equity in the house, there very well could be an appraisal waiver anyway that you structure into the deal. It cannot be contingent on the appraisal. So figure that out with your lender before you write that offer. Now, speaking of lenders, I will tell you. So I work with a fantastic lender. There's a couple fantastic lenders, okay? But there is one in particular. He has the absolute best reputation in Georgia. And I will tell you, having his name on the loan contingency has moved my offer to the top of the stack so many times. Everyone wants to know that the deal is not going to fall through. Everyone knows that this particular lender, it's never going to fall through. He is an ace. So if you've got a lender in your area with that type of reputation, even if your buyer doesn't ultimately elect to go with them, hopefully they do if they have that great of a reputation. Get them pre-qualified before you go out. If you're new in the industry, find out who has one of the best reputations, and you'll find it often on the agent remarks too. Like a lot of the big lenders will offer closing costs as incentive if you use them in the deal, and you'll see certain names all the time. So if you don't have one, ask around for that name, but that has been a huge dial mover for a lot of my deals. Now, this one I always think is kind of crazy, but I had won so many deals where the agent has told me, I just appreciated how clean your paperwork is. And I'm thinking that this is so obvious. Like everybody has clean contracts, everyone's contracts are buttoned up, but apparently that's not the case. And when you are a listing agent, which I guess I've seen it as listing agents, but make sure that all of your offer paperwork is completely buttoned up, that all exhibits are properly labeled, properly referenced, every single blank is filled in. You want to make sure that the special stipulations are very clear. Take it all the way down to the point where the broker's phone number is filled in, the broker's address is filled in, every single field, let it be filled in. What the other agent sees is, okay, great. I don't have to go around chasing initials and signatures and having blanks filled in because their admin on their broker team is just going to go after them for that. There's a lot of people who just really, really appreciate a clean contract. I do as well. I know for me as a listing agent, if I see one contract that has a lot of holes and the other one's so properly filled in, I know that the latter is going to be a much smoother transaction and I don't have to worry about things going wrong or the deal being sloppy. It just sets a precedent of professionalism that a lot of agents really, really respect. And so I would definitely say if you think it doesn't matter, it does. So make sure your contracts are as buttoned up and as clean as possible. Also, on that note, on writing a clean contract, you want to make sure, especially in your special stipulations, that you're leaving nothing open for interpretation. Vague or ambiguous stips, they invite fear and resistance to working with your offer. They need to understand exactly what you're asking for. Okay, so for example, let's say you're writing home to be cleaned prior to closing. No, change that to at seller's cost, home to be professionally cleaned to include the inside of all appliances no later than 2 calendar days prior to closing, seller to provide receipt of professional cleaning to the buyer no later than 2 calendar days prior to closing. This provides clear expectations of who, of what, of when, and who is financially responsible. This sets the expectation, and everyone is very clear on what the contract states. The next thing I will talk about is the power of persistence. Now, you don't want to be a nag, you don't want to be annoying, but there's certainly a way to do it. There have been many times where I have thought that my client was just completely out of the running because they just couldn't get there with the numbers. And I thought, what's the point? But guess what? It has worked so many times where I've actually just kept trying just a little bit more, and just not giving up. So when they'd say, sorry, you're just way off, I'll say, okay, well, can you give us another chance? Like, what's it going to take? Again, going back to the acquiring the intel, what is it going to take? I mean, I keep going until I find out exactly what it's going to take. Okay. And I'll laugh as I'm saying it and I'll make them feel really comfortable. And I will just let them know, listen, I'm just trying to give your client the best possible deal. You want that. Yes. You want to give your client the best possible deal. So tell me how to give them more money. I'm asking you to tell me how to give them more money or whatever the deal is, right? So at least I can give my buyer the option to make that decision, right? So I will ask them, tell me what it is that your seller wants. How far apart are we? I will do everything I can to keep going back to say, we want another shot, give us another shot. Tell me. Okay. And some of these people, they're so impressed by the persistence that they'll bring it up at the closing table and they'll say, she's the reason that you got this property because she did not stop. And your buyers love you for it. All they want is for you to tell them what to do. Okay. In most cases. And if they don't want to go further, you don't need to keep pushing. But certainly most people, if they're writing an offer, they're wanting that house. So do everything you can, the power of persistence. All right. And then the very last one on that same topic, and that's what I'm doing in my deal right now. I am manifesting and I am believing it's going to happen. I'm believing that's going to happen. I will tell you, the developer is paying more money for this deal than my client has. And it's on 2 different parcels of land. So I've got to negotiate with 2 different people. But instead of just telling him, look, it's a long shot, I'm like, let's do this. We're going in with creative terms. We're going in, we're asking for owner financing, positioning it in a way that's going to be very advantageous for the seller, putting the seller in first position. Anyway, I could go on, but basically we are doing everything we can to believe that this is going to work out. And I think because of our believing and manifesting and just doing everything in our power, I think it actually will. And it's going to be a hell of a first quarter for 2025 if this works out. So I'm wishing the same thing for you. Don't give up if you think that there's not a shot in hell that this is going to work. Just keep going, because you might be surprised at what you're able to pull off, and your client will love you for it at the end of the day. So that's all I got on this. I know I just threw a lot into a very, very short segment today. Hope that you found some value into what I said today. And if you are in the middle of a multiple offer situation, try employing some of these tactics if you don't already. And if you are, keep killing it. You've got this. Let's just make the end of 2024 the best we can make it. Leave nothing on the table. And let's start 2025 off with a bang. All right. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. Go kill it this week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Agent Hero podcast. Together, we're redefining real estate success. I hope you're feeling more informed and inspired after today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the show and connect with me on social media. I am the Agent Hero across all platforms. See you next time.